If I'm hearing both of you right, and I want to make sure I am, I'm somewhat encouraged that maybe the Russians will be slowed down or stopped or halted or stymied, and there will be some kind of messy agreement that doesn't obviously involving Ukraine joining NATO, but some kind of neutrality that includes some security for the Ukraine, and that there's a way out of this mess. Am I hearing this right? Am I being too optimistic here?
That's certainly one possible outcome, and I think it's looking more probable.
Yes.
Over time, as both sides seem to talk about negotiations, and as the battlefield moves towards stalemate, it's not impossible that the Russians would still prevail. I worry a lot about the situation in the East, for example, or something could happen to Zelensky. I mean, it's not impossible. On the other hand, it's not impossible that the Russians would collapse at some point, and you would have maybe regime change in Russia. There's a wide variety of possibilities. We just don't know, what the future will bring. But as I mentioned to the group before, whatever happens, the historians will write that it was inevitable, and we should have all seen
it. Well, that's true.
The downside of a Russian military victory, what that really would mean in some sense, and I want to keep the focus on the people of Ukraine, first and foremost. What it really would mean is that the force of Russian firepower, overwhelming Russian firepower, over weeks and months perhaps, ultimately causes people in Ukraine to give up, to say, we want our independence. And we remember that the last time the Russians invaded after 1918, within a decade and a half, the Kremlin was imposing a holodomor, the collectivization starvation, where roughly 10% of the population or more starved to death in a country that's a breadbasket to the world. So they remember that, and that's another reason to resist. But that resistance can be worn down by the horrors of warfare endured over I don't know how long it takes, but it's possible. If it does, but the other side of it I need to point out is that the Russian military victory is an outcome that is good for Putin in that it utterly suppresses democracy in Ukraine, but it's not good for Russia because it means a permanent disjunction between Russia and the Russian economy and Europe and the West. And that's going to make Russia dependent on China, frankly. And the prospect of a Russian military victory leading Russia to become, in the longer term, basically a dependency on the People's Republic of China is certainly not what Putin had in mind in trying to make Russia great.